Thanks to everybody for tuning in to another episode of Off the Clock with Mo. Today I have the great opportunity to do this podcast with a man that's like a true brother to me. I've known this guy probably I know for sure well over 20 years, well over 20, probably more like 25 years. So yeah, probably more like 25 years because I'll be 50 this year. And I think I met you when I was 25, 20, 24 or 25. Yeah. So, but this is Dion. Dion, thank you for showing up to Off the Clock with Mo.
Oh yeah, 100. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got a podcast yourself that you do, don't you? What is it?
Yeah, I sure do. I've got a podcast named Divine Timing 33.
Okay.
All right, where I talk about a lot of spiritual understandings. Okay,
Right.
where I addressed, how to take care of your spiritual, your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And cater to your frequency and
So
things like
how
that.
important is your energy?
I mean, your energy is you. You know what I'm saying? It is the outward reflection of you. It's the inner reflection of you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I mean, if your energy is off, then you are off.
And how, I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm not really in tune with my energy like that. I mean, I guess maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I know for sure not as in tune as you are. But how do you really get it? How do you really tap into that energy to where it's either nothing bothers you or you walk away from some things or how do you really tap into that energy of yours?
It's a good question. Yeah, so it's going to come from a will, right? The spirit, the will.
Uh-huh.
It's going to come from a desire, a burning fire. Something inside of you that's going to want more, want better, want to make sense out of things.
Right.
Some of that is divinely led for a large part of us. But as we continue to spiritually awaken, it's in all of us to try to look for a little bit more, a lot more that makes sense instead of the status quo.
Right. Because now, if I'm not mistaken, you ain't always been into energy reading, or have you?
No, I actually I started to probably wake up, around the age of 30.
30? Because I remember,
Mhm.
like I said, when I first met you, because I moved to Belleville in 99 or 2000 when I first met you, and your sister was living next door to me.
Oh yeah.
Me and my ex-wife now.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and you was kind of young and
Man, I was a young little.
yeah, and you was out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you was running
I
wild.
wasn't doing no spiritual. I was learning other stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was maybe I was mastering, and I don't know. You never master anything too quickly. But yeah, man, I was a young cat. I remember meeting you. You know what I'm saying? You was best friends with my brother.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He passed back in 2011. You became my best friend. You know what I'm saying?
Since 2011.
2011, man. Yeah,
Wow.
I started dreading my hair.
It seemed like that was, for me, it seemed like that was like just yesterday. You know how time fly, because like I said, because I met you, your sister's now ex-husband,
Yeah.
and Devin, pretty much at the same time.
Yeah.
That was back in my I call my backsliding years as well, because I think I met y'all because I was trying to find out where the marijuana was at the time. Just back when I used to smoke marijuana, and then from there, it just
we were wild. Man.
Yeah, it just grew. That friendship,
Mm-hmm.
just grew. Because your sister was next door, y'all was always over there.
Yeah.
Your brother would come over all the time.
Yeah, he stayed in the front.
Yeah. They had that one bedroom.
Yeah, he sure did.
Yeah, and always coming over playing the game. You know what I'm saying? We stayed playing the game. Like I said, but that was my like my backsliding years as well, because we was playing the game, getting high, getting drunk
every day.
Yeah, not what I'm saying, not really doing too much. I think I was working at this warehouse, and I think your brother was working at the, O'Reilly's warehouse in Belleville on Haggerty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, matter of fact, your Murray's, your brother-in-law was working there too. They was both there working together.
That's right.
We was doing some crazy shit, because they would always come back with new Murray items
Oh, shit.
I need some spark. I need some spark plugs. They come back with some spark plugs.
Whatever you need.
Yeah, and then you was hanging out with your friend, the big guy with the Cadillac.
Oh yeah, that's Calvin.
Yeah, it was. You was hanging out with him and another real thin, darker skinned kid that went to Belleville High School.
Oh yeah, that was Melvin.
Yeah. And you know, and what was it like, you know, back then for you, because you was much younger than us and you was still out there finding your way in the world. What was that like for you at that time?
It was new. You know, it was an experience. I mean, you know, I called myself trying to go to school and actually dropped out at that time. You know,
What kind of school?
I was going to Washtenaw.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, but I didn't go very long. When I came back from Ohio, I went a lot longer. Obviously, I was able to take all of my, you know, gen eds and everything.
What made you drop out?
You know, just not really focused. You know, you know, running the streets. You know, I always had a job, so I was working at the airport at the time at the McNamara terminal.
Okay.
And so I was able to, you know, give myself the living that I was looking for. And between that and going to school, you know, it was tough.
What was you studying?
You know, I was just taking gen eds at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't really get into a focus. You know, when I came back, you know, I got into automotive technology and then I finished my gen eds and I started taking classes towards electrical engineering. You know?
You can do electrical work?
Well, you know, not anymore. But, you know, yeah.
You can work on the car?
Well, yeah, I can work on the car. You know, I don't know if I can work on these new Teslas, but
I got some brakes need to be fixed.
I mean, you know, I really did take a different path. You know what I'm saying? You know, we talking about, you know, 25 years ago, but you know, really it was just trying to figure my way out, figure out what it was that I needed to get done and discipline. You know what I'm saying? Like the spiritual aspect of who I am today didn't exist inside of me consciously yet. Right.
And doing that, because you said you went to Ohio. What was you doing? I didn't know you went to Ohio. What was you doing in Ohio?
Well, I went down there to take care of my grandmother. You know what I'm saying? She was sick at the time, and I was getting into trouble out here, so I needed to find a different way to coexist.
Oh, okay.
You know, yeah.
How long was you in Ohio?
Maybe a year and a half, 2 maybe years, something like that.
Where at in Ohio?
I was in Akron, Ohio. That's where my family's from.
Oh, okay. You know? All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I never knew you was out there. I know that back in the day, back in the day, you know, with me and your brother, we was, like I said, it was my backsliding days, his backsliding days, and we used to just do some of the dumbest shit. I think at one time, he worked at McDonald's at one point. And he came up with this idea that he wanted to have a cookout.
Oh.
So he took all the hamburger patties from McDonald's. I think it was probably about 100 of them. He had them, it was in boxes. There's probably about 100 of them. And he invited everybody in the neighborhood to come to this cookout that he took all these McDonald's hamburger patties from, and just had a real good time.
Yeah, don't forget the fries.
I ain't know about I ain't remember the fries.
Yeah, they used to come in a big bag, and so then they drop them in some oil and deep fry them, right? Because that's how they cook them.
Right. I didn't realize he took the took the fries. I remember the hamburger patties for sure. Maybe we did eat some fries, but I didn't know they came from McDonald's too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good food.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then cause then your brother ended up moving out to Ypsilanti, in them little project apartments up there.
Yeah. Grove Road.
Yeah, Grove Road. Yep. Because no matter what was going on, with myself or with your brother or anything like that, I always knew that, I could always call on him. I could be, me and my ex-wife could be going through some shit, and I would just feel like getting out the house, or I just wanted to drink or do some shit like that.
Right. And
he was always game. he was always game. I remember one time when I first bought my first Cadillac, I had an 89 Cadillac Fleetwood Brougham. I was working at GM, and I had went and got this Cadillac, and I had just got. Matter of fact, I don't even think the license plates on there was right, because the license plates came from the same owner. The owner never took the license plates off the car. It was from Oklahoma.
Hey.
And I remember that whole night, man. We stayed out that whole night. I don't recommend nobody else do this bullshit. It was dumb as hell. I shouldn't have been doing it then, but shit, you live, you learn. And we drove around all night, all around Ipsy, going to all the bars, going to the stores, and just drinking and driving the whole day long. I had a fifth of Hennessy in the glove box. That motherfucking glove box was like this goddamn big and shit. You know what I'm saying? And we stayed out to about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, like literally doing nothing but driving, going to the bars, and just bullshitting. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And your brother was that type of person that I could always count on to where it's shit. I'm gonna call Devin. Devin gonna do it. Devin be down
He's a rider.
and every time he just come on. I don't care. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. You know the countless times I spent you just spent the night over there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
All type of all type of little shit. You know what I'm saying? Even sometimes even to this day, I wish I could still call him sometimes. Be like, man, come on, man. I ain't feeling today. I need somebody to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's where you took that spot. Per se. You know what I'm saying? Because you was always like a younger brother, to me, you know what I'm saying? And always got on our nerves like, man, I ain't fucking with you today, man. We ain't go on back home, man.
Strong opinion.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, man. But
yeah, I remember like back in the day, man, it was Pub 13 was out there in was that off of Michigan Avenue.
12.
Was it Pub 12?
US 12.
No.
Michigan Avenue in Wayne?
No. Those
that
bar that was out in Pennsylvania. Yeah, that bad boy, the Deja Vu.
Yeah, they was right next to each other.
No more.
Yeah, they was right next to each other.
Yeah. So I mean, like you head over there. I mean, you got the tap room across the street.
Yeah. Your brother loved that damn Deja Vu. I hated Deja Vu.
It was all right. It wasn't as.
They didn't serve liquor.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they was completely nude. So they didn't serve liquor. So I hated going in there.
Yeah, you got to go out to Detroit to their Deja Vu, and then
anyone that did completely nude,
right,
didn't sell. Well, wasn't supposed to be selling liquor.
Yeah, different atmosphere out in the city.
Way different, way different.
Mm-hmm.
Because for a minute there, you had disappeared for a minute, and then you came back with a girlfriend. then you started. I started noticing you started bossing up a little bit more.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I started, you went from getting on my goddamn nerves to your life started improving.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because you ended up with a girlfriend that really that nobody thought that you that fits your lifestyle per se. You know what I'm saying? That fits your character because we were just so used to you just wilding out a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So how did y'all end up meeting?
Yeah, so I actually met her at a McDonald's out in what was that, Ford Road in Wayne?
Mm-hmm.
Westland, that's what that is, yeah. And that was before I left. And so, there was some magic there. And I found myself working there for a short period of time.
At McDonald's?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
she worked there too?
Yeah, she sure did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, we both working there, and the funny thing is, man, that was probably the hardest job that I had. That was like the hardest job to get because the guy did not want to employ me for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I just stuck with it. It took me 3 days to get that job. Going up there consistently, ended up getting hired by somebody that I went to school with.
Oh, okay.
They happened to be a manager,
Right.
And so, but when I met her the first time, I think that it was, a lot of sparks that were just underneath the surface, right?
Oh, okay.
And, she was amazing. And so, but, just very calmly, very cordially, I think the energy was vast. But yeah, she's from India. Her family's from India.
Oh, okay.
She's born. She came over here when she was 6 years old. And,
so she was actually born over there in India.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So a lot of folks was like, who is this girl? Like, what you doing? And so like I said, I ended up needing to skedaddle for a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Being wild and whatnot. and we stayed in touch the whole time.
Oh wow.
You know what I'm saying? So she is the reason why I came back here.
Oh, okay.
You know
All
what I'm
right.
saying?
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense now. And you know, because how old were you when y'all met?
Ooh, so I must have been like 19, 20, something like that.
And you how old now?
I'm 40.
You 49. Y'all met when you
I'm
were
40.
about 19.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Man, that's 20 years.
Yeah. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, if you ask me, I think it's well worth it. But then again, I don't live in a household with you. But if you ask me, I think it was, you know, it's well worth it because like I told you before, you know, when you met her, you know what I'm saying, I just started seeing I just started seeing a lot of shit, you know, change for the better in you for the most part. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all have our flaws and we all mess up from time to time and fuck up from time to time. But overall, you know what I'm saying, I just seen this positive change, you know, in you. You went from going over your brother's house, sleeping over there all the damn time and bugging the fuck out of him and your parents to I turn around one day and you got a condo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I turn around one day, you in a condo, you know, with a garage and all that, you know, all the other good stuff. And then you know, then not only do you got a condo, but then I see it's well decorated too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I just noticed these different steps. Even right now, I just noticed these different steps since you've been with it's your wife now, right?
That's correct.
Since you've been with your wife, that you steady been making, having better decision makings, you know, changing your ways for the better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as far as like you said earlier, with your spiritual and things like that, and as far as just everything overall. I've literally seen, if anybody knows you too, have literally seen a complete 180 out of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, shit, like I said, you just ripping and running and doing all this other shit like this to now, you know, you focused on, you know, being financially stable, being financially free, being, you know,
that's right,
spiritually in tune with yourself.
That's right.
And being spiritually free as well.
That's right.
You know, and how did she get that out of you?
Whew, man, you know what? I think I wanted it to come out of me one way. And say I needed an energy that could support that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I told myself when I was younger that I wouldn't get hooked to, you know, one energy because I understood how things work.
Right.
So when I met her, I realized she wasn't intertwined in the programming that I had received.
Right.
And so I you know, even at 19 years old, I was able to see that. And, you know, I haven't always been perfect in the relationship or whatever. You know, we had our ups and downs.
Yeah.
Know? But, you know, I always understood that she was someone that hadn't been manipulated by the streets. She was pure in her heart with her intentions. And so, you know, that is what I needed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That is what I needed to create a foundation with, someone that I could trust, someone that I could build with, someone that, you know, wasn't argumentative, but that would support, you know, a young black man, you know what I'm saying? And not try to tear me down, not try to harvest my energy. You know what I'm saying? I'd be an energy vampire, you know.
What do you mean by energy vampire?
Oh, you know, somebody that plays on your energy, you know what I mean? Someone that'll try to keep you down.
Oh, okay.
You know, then we can get all into that. But, you know, she didn't have those aspects. Now, everybody has pains and things that they've dealt with, their inner child, unhealed aspects of themselves that can play out. But when we start to be consciously and we start to use that as a manipulation, and that's how I grew up, you know what I'm saying? Then I made sure that I was like, okay, I mess with X, Y, and Z, but, you know, they'll never really see me. You know what I'm saying? Because I got to protect that. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't going to wear my heart on my sleeve, but with her, you know, and, you know, I talked to her for a year and a half, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, we wrote letters back and forth to each other. It wasn't like she was down the street. So we really built a solid relationship. Right. You know what I'm saying? Before it came to, you know, a lot of other, you know.
Now, was that hard being far apart from each other and trying to build a relationship with somebody that's so far away from you at the time?
Yeah. So in the beginning stages, you know, it's amazing, right? But it does get hard if you feel like the commitment is not or it's wavering, you know what I'm saying, on both ends.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it gets a little hard, but you know, I guess you're gonna, in that long distance relationship, you're gonna try to figure out, you know, whether or not you all want this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so if you're willing to go through the ups and downs and willing to, you know, merge that gap, you know, with the foundation, then, you know, it shouldn't get too harder, because eventually, you know, you guys should come together. And so then that's what we did, you know what I mean? That's why I came back.
Oh, okay. Cause I know it's been a few things that, you know, that you went through in your life that, you know, really, you know, rocked you to the core, you know, and I was just happy that, you know, that you had somebody, you know, in your corner at that time, because truly, you know, I've never said this before, but I think without her, I think you would have went down a downward spiral that you probably would have been hard as hell to get out of. And what I mean by that is that, you know, when your brother passed away, the way that he passed away, and the way that you witnessed it, you know what I'm saying? I don't think that you could have did that by yourself. I don't think that you could have did that with, you know, somebody that may have been just like you at one point. You know what I'm saying? If you were with a female that all she wanted to do was get high, get drunk, run the streets, be with her girls, be promiscuous, and all the other shit like that, I think, personally, I think you'd have went down a downward spiral that you couldn't have got out of. But me personally thinking that, you know, with the woman that you had then before y'all was married, that's your wife now, I think that she really, 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 you know, silently helped you get through that.
Yeah,
as
no doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, she was instrumental in weeding out the fact that maybe I was dealing with it, maybe I wasn't. And when I decided to deal with it, she would miraculously appear.
Right.
And, you know, it was an arm on the shoulder. You know, it was like, I'm here. You know, and, you know, it was a really deep, it was a really deep time. It was a really painful time, you know. And but what I will say is that my brother, you know, before he passed, you know, he came over to my house, and we would have these conversations, and where we would bump heads sometimes, but he would be telling me there's more than life than what you've been taught.
Right.
You know? And he would always encourage me to look outside of what was given to me as far as information is concerned, and start discovering and learning things myself, because then I would get a better perception. I have a better perspective on, you know, what it is that I wanted to do and incorporate in my life. You know what I'm saying? And so he was instrumental in that. And as a result, you know, I remember when I told him, like, you know, I became spiritual, and I had these awakenings, and, you know, I talked to him on the phone, and, you know, he's like, basically, he's going to come over, but he never made it back over to have that conversation. You know, he came over in a heat and a storm that night, and things just kind of went the worst way possible. But maybe it was fated. I don't know.
Right.
But you know, he let go. But I will say that I was honored that he did that with me. Right. You know, so that I could protect him as he moved forward on his journey. And I come to realize that the energy that I possess today, and that is given to me like a heritage, you know, from a heritage. Right. You know, would do everything it could to protect him crossing over. You know, I think that he was instrumental in letting us know that he was okay. Yeah. Okay. You know. Oh yeah. There's a lot of different majestic spiritual things happening at that time, and it was amazing because then it started to give me aspects of Beyond the Veil,
Right.
And at that same time, I had made a commitment to myself that I would see things more so beyond the veil from expanded consciousness.
Mhm.
And now I'm getting a spirit, who would, a lot of religions would say, oh, you're going to, this is bad and da 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 da.
Yeah.
But there's so much positive energy that came through and stuff that you just cannot ignore.
And I'm happy I'm happy you said that part where you just said because you're spiritual, and then you just said it have been different religions, and it's probably some people out there that's watching this that may think that they haven't understand what the differences are, and there's some people out there that definitely don't know what the differences is between being religious and being spiritual.
Right.
What is the difference between being religious and being spiritual?
Well, spirituality is a base that can't be duplicated. All right, it can't be harnessed. All right, spirituality is your energy, your frequency, your vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it is the holy trinity between you and the cosmos.
Okay. The cosmos being what?
Everything. All right, the space. All right, time. All right, quantum. Okay. You name it. All right. Creating your own reality,
Mm-hmm.
The ability to see beyond the veil, the ability to develop a higher consciousness.
Now, is that what the third eye is?
Yeah. The third eye is, is see again, in religion, they dictate, they call it out as something that's bad. But the truth is that your third eye allows you to see beyond the physical.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It is the understanding of deja vu. It is seeing synchronicities, whether it be numbers
mm-hmm.
or, dreams and being able to implement. It's like a way of looking at a TV with your two eyes, right?
Yeah.
But, your third eye understands that maybe it's a Samsung, where it came from,
right?
The inner workings of that TV, what that TV can do,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
When that TV is on, when it's communicating, when it's not on. All right, you can't see that with your eyes,
right?
You know what I'm saying? So spiritual development allows you to see beyond the veil.
Oh, okay, all right. And with that, with that, as far as being spiritual and religion,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? What are some of the pros and the cons of being spiritual or being deep into your religion?
So, all right. So we went over spirituality, but when you are religion, you are receiving spirituality in a certain setting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that setting may be convoluted with its own ideals and animosity. It could have its own ideals that are not, and is not, for the most part, in this day and age. It doesn't coincide with any other religion. They never see eye to eye.
Yeah.
They always want to see themselves as, but we're all one.
Right.
So how is that even possible?
Right.
All right. So, you wind yourself up doing rituals and communions. That's what they say, but the rituals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so you're growing, you're trying to grow spiritually, but you're getting just enough so you can feel like you're getting some spirituality, but it's not until you actually get into spirituality and that alone.
Oh, okay.
And so, religion can be a little daunting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And it can be superficial.
Right.
It can be, uplifting, but spirituality, the work of spirituality is working on yourself.
Right.
Okay, so you're working on your subconscious. You're working on reprogramming your thoughts. Mm-hmm. You're working on focusing on having a high vibration. You're working on keeping your energy clean. You're working on understanding the subtle energies of negativity,
right,
and how they interact with you. All right, so you're getting a different perspective, and, and so you're growing, because you're like, whoa, you're learning to calm your mind.
Because because speaking of that, I don't know. Sometimes I find myself being spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Other times I find myself being, I guess you could say religious, so to speak, because the way you put it is, me myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've been finding myself for years. You know what I'm saying? I've been finding myself for years.
At least you're looking.
You know what I'm saying? And then at the same time, I've also distant myself from negative energies my whole life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If it's something off about you, I don't want to deal with you. You know what I'm saying? If you not fucking with me in a way, I'm not fucking with you. You know what I'm saying? If you don't call me from time to time, I ain't calling you from time to time. But if you call me from time to time, I'm definitely calling you from time to time. If you showing that you want to receive what I had to offer, and I guess as you said earlier, that's my energy, then I want your energy in return. But if I feel like you don't want this energy, well, I'm not about to give it either, and I don't want yours at the same time. You know what I'm saying? But on the other end, I also know that there's a God too. You know what I'm saying? And so that's my religious aspect of knowing that there's a God, to whereas I know if I don't like the way you treat people, I'm not going to treat you that way either, though. You know what I'm saying? You may not never call me. Yeah, I may go from not calling you on a regular, but calling you every so often, every few months, probably like 3 times a year, some shit like that, because I know what it feels like not to be communicated with, and because when they say, what would Jesus do? How would God? What would God want you to do?
Yeah.
Well, God, I feel like God will still want me to reach out to this individual, but I ain't about to reach out to you as much. But I'm still going to show you that I love you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to show you anything to say that I hate you.
Right.
I'm going to show you that I love you because God is love.
That's right.
And being spiritual is also that energy, and I got to protect that energy.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So I find myself sometimes teetering on both sides of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So light and dark.
Right.
And that's okay, because even God, is light and dark. All right. God is everything. So for all the negative energies, all right, that is an aspect of God that God doesn't appreciate, but God wants you to see that.
Right.
God wants you to go through that. So that you can appreciate the light more.
And then that's where I find myself, with you, your brother, saying your wife, your children and things like that, as whereas when I get around, people like yourself and your wife and your children, it just brings abundance energy out of me that I can release.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? That's not that when I'm around certain people, not everybody, but for example, like you and your wife and your kids, and there's a lot of other people out there. There's a few other people out there in the world too that when I get around you, your brother as well, I was able to release that energy, and then not only release that energy, but be me. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that old saying goes. I mean, not the old saying, but the new thing they're doing now is listen and don't judge. You know what I'm saying? Where I could be around you and say some of the most off the wall type of shit, and it won't necessarily be judged. It may be critiqued, but it won't be judged.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that energy right there does a lot. For myself now, and I just hope that the same thing, with myself is towards you and everyone else that that I come around.
Yeah. So part of the growth that I had to go through was understanding karmics. Okay.
What's that? I just know that's like lip balm.
Well, karmic is like
karmic.
Yeah,
I thought you said Carmex.
Yeah, no.
I thought you talking about put my lips and shit. I let my lips chat.
Nah.
I thought my lips were chapped. I was about to be one.
But yeah, so yeah, man, when you get around karmics, man, then you have to deal with people going through karmic repercussion and karma, right?
Yeah.
And folks that are not developed and are not trying to develop are often in karmic situations.
Right.
All right. And when we come into this life, we have to go through karmic cycles. We have to go through. So
karmic is an extension word to karma.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Karma means like karmic is someone that is that's not developed and that's not trying to work on themselves, and that would be an energy vampire. All right. They are the ideal. So I don't never looked at you like a karmic. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I look at you like someone who's doing things. You know what I'm saying? Someone who's going places, someone who wants to learn, someone that's balanced in a certain way with their emotions to allow for growth and development. You know what I'm saying? So you have a higher vibration. All right. Karmics don't have a high vibration.
Oh, okay.
All right. They feed off people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I would say that I've always felt uplifted with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't understand you to be a karmic. I don't understand you to be someone who's in a position of pettiness and victimization or narcissistic.
Oh, I could be petty.
Well, we all can. But you know, it's all about the energy pull.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's all, even if you do pull the energy, did you know you pull the energy with,
Sometimes I do.
yeah. So if you
'Cause I'm
decide
petty.
that, right.
Yeah.
So if you decide like, I don't need to do that, you know, I don't need to be like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Then you're not a karmic. You know what I'm saying? A karmic thrives off of that.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And really what it is that they're unhealed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There's folks out here that are unhealed from trauma, and so they project. All right, so they project, and petty is a projection.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that happened to me, so I'm going to do it. That is a download program that you are now outputting.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, man. Just taking it back to the karmics. I never considered you a karmic. I know we all get down. I know that no one's perfect. But there are some people that I wouldn't want to be around that I was around.
Right.
You know, because I understand them to be karmic folks. You know what I'm saying? People of a low frequency, people that will sell you out, people that'll talk shit behind your back,
right.
Sell you under a bus, throw you under a bus. You know, people that will feed off your energy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get around you to get that uplifting feeling. It's really nice to know that you felt uplifted. You know, as I was younger. When I was younger, I didn't realize I had that energy. You know, I didn't realize that. You know, it's my energy. You know, and so folks would tell me, like, man, I like to come out here and get a good feel for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's refreshing.
Right. Because I don't mean to cut you off, but you know, because since we're talking about energies and some religion,
mm-hmm.
and you know, and you said your wife is from India.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Now that had to been something, you know, different as you being who you are, feeding on energy. But I know the India lifestyle and their religion is completely different.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I guess somewhat of understanding as far as like you know, their way of you being you know, of unionizing as far as man and woman and becoming married had to been something totally different, you know, because you being an Afro American, you know, male, and her being from India. Was there any clashes in that with her family?
Well, yeah, there were clashes on both sides with her family and with my family.
Okay.
Yeah, she wasn't really religious. All right, but nonetheless, she was born in the Sikh. All right, and so they had a caste system. They had a lot of stuff but they, you know, they say they're spiritual, but you know, and that's like most religion, you know. So, but they wouldn't be accepting of me, right? Right. And so I never really gained the aspect of Indian spirituality, you know, other than what it was that I researched on her.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, with the clash, it meant that, you know, not only can I speak the language, you know, there's no interaction.
Right.
You know, nonetheless, you know, there's interaction with her and there's growth with her.
Yeah.
So that was really hard on her, you know, because
was she torn? How torn was she between the two? Do I be with this man that I love, or do I do what my family has done for generations and generations?
Yeah, so torn, I guess, you know, torn completely in half.
Yeah.
Maybe she left a piece of her over there and then got it later on,
mm-hmm.
but then obviously, you know, gave me the other half.
And as a man, her boyfriend, fiance, and husband,
mm-hmm.
what did that do for you when she? Well, evidently she chose you because y'all married. What did that say to you?
Not right away, but Yeah. You know, it made okay. So it made me feel like maybe I earned it, but don't squander it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I didn't want to have that be the seed of me, right? You
Right.
know what I mean? Like you're a woman that I fell in love with, and so now we gonna build. I can't spend my whole life over there in in the lens of what you were, right?
Mm-hmm.
She had in India, they don't really honor the ladies over there,
Right.
and so it wasn't as hard to be in an environment where you're appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So with the appreciation that she got from my environment meant that she could grow and that she could also heal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because she's raised in a situation that was pretty damning. To the psyche, to the mind, to the to the balance. Of her feminine energy. You know what I'm saying? Everything is masculine. And so, she's been able to do a lot of healing, and with her family, she goes and sees, often, but not often enough. You know how that goes. Yeah.
Have they accepted you at any, even if it's a small bit?
Yeah.
Have they accepted you in any way, shape, or form or fashion?
Yes.
Okay, that's because typically they wouldn't accept you for shit.
Well, I know folks that are in the same position, and no, they didn't get anything.
And how does that feel that they got somewhat of a, I don't know how much of acceptance they have of you, but just to know that they got some type of acceptance with you, how does that make you feel?
To be honest with you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful, right? But as I was conveying, like I'm not building my life for them,
right?
You know what I'm saying? So if they want to accept me, her mother bought me this ring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's 22 karat,
right?
And that's what they do. They give you gold money, and so they came through like that. You know what I'm saying? They had a lot of ways to show me, like, we don't really like the situation, and I think that they had some things that they felt didn't go their way too, like her daughter maybe keeping stuff from them, and really not coming correct on it. Like, hey, I know who you are,
right.
And maybe that was programmed from her, right? From them to her, but they ask about me. They I don't really see them. The rest of my family will. I just kind of I give them their space, with a big heart, and I understand that they may not have the wherewithal inside of them to be able to deal with looking at a big black strong man. You know what I'm saying? It may be intimidating to them, or they might feel like they're embarrassed. But everybody in her family knows who I am.
But I think that, like you said, they gave you a ring,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Her mother did.
Yeah, her mother gave you a ring.
Yeah.
So for me, you know what I'm saying? Not saying that you got to think like I think.
Sure.
But for me to say, for me, for someone to say, all right, I don't agree with this shit, I wouldn't, say I prefer my child to do what we've been doing for generations, but all right, I accept you for you. I ain't happy with it, but here you go. There's a ring to show you my, the love that I have for you because you gave me the grandchildren that I have. My daughter's life hasn't dropped off. You know what I'm saying? Now, my daughter was out here using dope and getting drunk and not taking care of her business, and she with you, of course, I'm going to blame the shit out of you.
Right.
Even though it's her choice, I'm still going to blame the shit out of you.
Right.
Because she chose you because she chose you as her husband. She chose to be, she chose you to say, I'm going to be with you and no one else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it's ultimately us as the man to say, I'm going to marry you or not. You know what I'm saying? But her family seeing that she hasn't fell off or dropped off by no means, and them saying, like, I don't like this shit, but all right, here you go. Take this motherfucking ring.
I think that they have a lot of culture. They're older, influence there. Okay. I don't really see a whole lot of older folks reaching across what was the programming for,
Yeah.
maybe 50 years of their life. I think they, do a good job to maybe keep their distance, but then at the same time embrace.
Right.
Okay. I think that, they've done an excellent job of that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I could only be grateful.
Right.
And I don't feel any animosity.
Yeah, see that
from that.
And with you being
on that side.
and with you being as spiritual as you are, I think that you will feel that. I believe you probably felt it at one point.
Yeah,
but you don't feel it as much now. Probably, maybe I don't know. I'm just guessing.
No, I don't feel it as much or at all.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like that part of my life is healed.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like they're constantly asking what we're doing next.
Yeah.
How's business going?
Right.
A business that I created.
Yeah. And you created a great business. I mean,
I appreciate it.
I ain't think the shit was gonna happen initially.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, I didn't think the shit was gonna happen. Like, who in the hell? Because y'all moved out to the country. Because I remember looking at houses with y'all.
Yeah.
You looked at some houses in Canton, some houses in I think Westland too.
Maybe.
So, I don't know. This was years ago, but I do remember the house in Canton. Looking at houses in Canton. Then one day you called them and said we found the house. I'm like, oh, where at? You said Milan. Oh, where the fuck is Milan?
Where the fuck is Milan?
Yeah, then I come out to Milan, and there's a big ass motherfucker, as they would call it, a rural area or a country area, whereas you gotta come down a dirt road to get to your house, and you got all this space, you got all this land around you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And when I first came there, and y'all had the house. And I looked at you, and I looked at the area that you was in, and I was like, I'm like, shit, he really done came up, you know what I'm saying? Because the one thing in life that they tell you to get as a person, as a man, is to get land. Because no matter what you do in this world, everything else that you get is gonna depreciate. But when you get land, that's something that everybody wants and everybody don't have.
Right.
Is land, and not just a corner lot. You know what I'm saying? Not just I got a house, I got a porch, and I got a sidewalk in front of my house that everybody walks by, and I got very little land around this house. But you got a house,
nice,
and you got we got like 5 acres around your home.
6.
Who's counting, right? But you got 6 acres around your home that you're free to do whatever you want on that property. And when I seen it for the first time, and even after the first time, after I seen it and continue to see it from time to time, and the things that you do around it, it puts me at an awe, just because growing up as an Afro-American man. This ain't what they say we supposed to have.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They tell us we supposed to live in a project somewhere. They tell us we supposed to have like 6, 7 different baby mamas, and they tell us that we supposed to not have much of anything, but always want to be on that assistance of some sort. They tell us that we're supposed to be living with a woman on assistance. You know what I'm saying? They tell us that everything that we want is not reachable unless it's what they want us to have. And what they want us to have is that alcohol. They want us to have those drugs. They want us to have those material things that don't appreciate in shit, but just constantly bring you down.
That's right.
And when I seen your house for the first time and all that land around it, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, damn. I was just happy as hell for you. You know what I'm saying? I was happy. I was proud. I was happy for your wife. You know what I'm saying? When I started having kids and things like that, and you really had something to even pass on down the road somewhere. Then you say, I'm gonna have my own business too. I'm like, look, man, you doing too goddamn much. You already got a nice ass home out here with 6 acres around the motherfucker. Then you turn around and turn it into an assisted living home. You know what I'm saying? And then you finding ways of generating, more wealth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Then you end up having clients in the home.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. I'm like, all right. So I'm starting to think, well, what the fuck do I got to do to try to boss my life up a little bit more? Because it's like they say, health is not a competition, but
No.
healthy. I'm probably gonna use the wrong words here, but not competition, but healthy motivation.
Yeah.
Healthy motivation. Shit, I gotta do this. I gotta do something too.
Oh, well, I watched you.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
watched you.
And I may not be able to do it like you did it
No,
necessarily.
You did it.
But it is, you know, like shit. It's healthy motivation to want something better for myself as well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And part of that is you help is you and a lot of other people in this world too.
Sure.
But you help me with that motivation just as well. That energy that energy that you gave off.
Yeah.
You know, just rubbed off on me as well.
Nice.
You know, to want more. I ain't got no 6 acres, but I ain't in prison either.
Shit, I hear you.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and then with her family, how did her family think about that when y'all started, you know, making y'all life together like that?
Yeah, you know, there was that aspect of what they're gonna look like. Well, now they know, and so you know, my kids are handsome and beautiful.
Yeah. Y'all got how many kids together?
I've got 3.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, with her, and yeah, so. Man, you know, after that, you know, it's kind of like, all right, you know, and we going, but you know, what's really good is to hear that they'll call and check on things and say, how's business? How you doing? What y'all doing now?
Right,
you know, where y'all going? What the, you know, and I can see that they're intrigued.
Yeah.
Because at the bare minimum, that's what I would want. You know what I mean? Not to be focused on
we ain't gotta be best friends.
Right.
We ain't gotta be enemies either.
But watch this, you know.
Yeah.
But I really am grateful because I'm with somebody that I can do that with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's what my mom was growing up, you know. She was very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was head over heel family and making sure things stayed together, and her energy was awesome. You know, and you know, why she took on the weight of the world and all the expectations at that time.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm with somebody that I can do that with, basically, instead of, you know, like you were saying, you know, hitting the streets, you know, you know, being a Jezebel.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you a man, you can't be a Jezebel.
No, I've been hurt. Yeah. Karmic and shit, on karmic behavior and shit, just doing shit, you know what I mean? Stirring drama up, you know, so you might get a guy that leaves, you can get the other guy to come over. It's just stupid shit.
Right.
You know, keeping kids from they dad, you know what I mean? Because I can. You know what I mean? Because you got so much pain, karmic shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just not her mentality, not her personality. There are a lot of people in my life that I was close to and that I loved and that would love me, but they might be under the surface doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know without a shadow of a doubt, if me and my wife were to separate, she wouldn't keep the kids.
Right.
She wouldn't play that game.
Right.
It would never be about, you know, playing that game.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that can actually dig at, you know, a man, you know, especially if he cares about his kids.
Yeah.
And so it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor to be with somebody that's healthy enough for me to reach the caliber that I am, for me to be a leader.
Right.
Okay. You know, so she's a registered nurse. Mm-hmm. She works at U of M.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. She's been up there for about 15, 14 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, you know, before that, you know, it was McDonald's, you know, for the most part. And, you know, she's going to school and I'm working 2 jobs just to make a couple dollars.
Yeah.
You know, taking care of people.
Yeah.
And so when she became a nurse, it was like we saw our first comma, you know. And so we used to walk around the house saying comma, 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 comma. You know, the good old days. And so, you know, and I believe the only time I got a comma was, you know, on one check was when I had some back pay that was due.
Right.
after they hit the shit out of that man.
Yeah.
You know?
I know those. I know
Yeah.
those days, man. I know those days. I'm put a little something out there. I don't know if too many people know about this right here, but back when I was going to school and shit, when I went back to college, I had this this job. Well, matter of fact, because I came to your job a couple times to pick people up and drop people off at your job, and I saw you at work sleep one day because you was too tired to drive home. I had to wake you up and I had to wake you up and get you home. But when I was doing that job right there, man, you never know how much I was making an hour to do that job, and I was still appreciative of the shit. That's how humble I was at that time.
Okay.
This was like in 2006, 2007, 2008. I was making $8.50 an hour.
Wow.
$8.50 an hour, and but my energy and my character and my also part of my religion beliefs wouldn't allow me to think that I was
gonna be able to.
I was better than. You know what I'm saying? I'm not better than $8.50. I'm not better than $8.50. You know what I'm saying? Because I knew that this was gonna make me a better person. I know a lot of people would look at that and say, "Man, I ain't doing that shit. Man, I ain't no goddamn money. I ain't nah." Sometimes you gotta go through them trials and tribulations to be grateful for the things that you have later on in life. If you ask me, the religion part about it is God is setting you up for something that you don't even know you've been set up for, and you gotta accept it. But if you don't accept it, God is gonna find a way to say, you know what, I gave you something that you didn't want, but it was the best thing for you. Now I'm gonna take everything away from you. And your spiritual part and your energy part, like as you say, you gotta have them high vibrations to think that this ain't the worst thing in the world. The worst thing in the world is I could not have a job, period, and be homeless.
That's right.
I got an $8.50 job and I still have a home. I still have a job. I still have food on my, in my home. I still have clothes on my back. I still have a roof over my head. You know what I'm saying? That was the spiritual part of me saying I can make this shit, work one way, shape, or form. And that's the religious part of me is saying that, God has put a task in front of me for this reason to build my character that much more.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't. This might be the first time they ever heard this shit. That I'm in 2007, probably between 2006, 2008. I was making $8.50 in the 2000s. You know what I'm saying? But if you ask me, that was a way of being cleansed, so to speak. It's like a forest fire. Forest fires happen all the time. But see, when you have a forest fire, you know what the forest fire does? It cleanses the forest. And it brings back down new life. And you start seeing new vegetation, new trees, new everything. Because it took away all that old shit and it's bringing new shit. You know what I'm saying? So all that shit that I had at $8.50 was me being like reborn, so to speak. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And even in that part, even in that space, your energy helped me get through some of that space. Your brother's energy helped me get through some of that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people helped me get through that because if I was just selfish and didn't and thought that this should be more, which you always should want more for yourself.
Absolutely.
But you should also understand the process too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Accept the process, and grasp the process and move along with the process. Don't fight it. Keep it going. And that's what I've seen, with you. You know what I'm saying? You taking every level of your life, through this process and have made the best out of everything, even when some of the shit was the very worst. Like I say, even with your brother passing away, you could have just went down downward spiral and said, well, fuck this shit. I don't want this shit. You know what I'm saying? I may end up like my brother, something like that. But you had shit lined up for you. You had a woman that genuinely loved and cared for you. You had you you had, you know, a lot of people to help you go along through this, but the most important person was yourself, because you got to be able to accept that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't accept it, it don't matter how many people got your back.
Yeah.
You're still gonna do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And you took that, and then not only took that, you built upon that, because not only did you have this home with 5 acres on it, around it, 6 acres. Who's counting again? But you added on to that house.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You added 6 more rooms to the house, or 5 more rooms?
4 more rooms.
Well, 4 more rooms to the motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? And that's unseen for an Afro-American man to not just have property, land, but to then add on to it, and then not just add on to it, but add revenue to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's not just it's not just sucking all your money out.
See,
it's
that was the
bringing money
thing,
in.
right? So that was the thing. You know, it was either work 2 jobs or figure out how to do this shit on my own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with my wife being able to bring in more income, I was able to then focus on that.
Right.
All right. I was also able to. It took time, and that's why, you know, I named my my YouTube Divine Timing. Right? You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, you know, divine what now, right? You know, it's not gonna work like that. But you know, and so, and she, as a nurse, you know, as a cancer nurse, she didn't want to deal with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I made a few pitches at her, like, and let her know, like, look, you know, this is the way this can happen. And it wasn't until she actually talked to somebody that was dying on their deathbed that actually said that they sold their company for what it was that we were doing now.
Yeah.
And that it was very lucrative, and you know, it was worth a long-term investment. And she came to me and she was like, yeah, I just had this really awesome conversation. Let me tell you about God, you know, because I had conveyed it to her, but I wasn't going to push it. So
right.
I'm pushing 2 jobs, you know what I'm saying? Which I also then cut down to 1 job, you know, because I realized that I can't work 2 jobs 7 days a week and raise my little son.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I gotta, something's gonna have to shake.
Right.
You know, so as a result, you know, she was able to then get a really good understanding of what it was that she was going to be able to offer, but on the receiving end too, as far as money. And so that's when she came back to me and said, hey, you know, I want to do this. And I mean, and it took about maybe 3-4 months. You know, I want to say as much as 6 months, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like I had let it go. You know what I mean? I was excited when I was like, what'd you say? You know, yeah. Because I bought that house to do that.
Yeah.
You know, but it wasn't like she wanted to do it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? She's not a country, you know, person. She's more like a city person. You know what I'm saying? So she knew she was making those, but she really wasn't feeling it. But once she got, you know, the logistics from someone else, then she was able to, you know, feel even more comfortable about it. And as a result, then yeah, you know, it flourished.
Right.
You know, it flourished as a result of the energy that we put in it.
Right.
And it was able to then rival her income.
Oh, okay.
So then it was like, okay, you know what I mean? Blessings from God. Now we got really 2 strong incomes here that, you know, can put us in the plane that in the direction that we were trying to go in, you know, without me having to get the cliche, the college degree, you know what I mean? Because I didn't get the college degree, you know what I'm saying? I went, and let me clarify something. It wasn't electrical engineering. It was mechanical engineering.
Okay.
That's what I was going to school for. And taking a bunch of calculus classes and things like that. But, you know, and I was making my way through it, you know, but I realized I don't want to do this.
Right.
Just like I realized I don't want to be under the hood of a car.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I was finding myself, I was doing this shit. I'm going to keep giving it my 100%, but I'm looking at that shit. I learned that from my father. You know, when I used to watch him go to work all the damn time, his eyes would be beat fucking red. And he made good money at a certain point in his life. Yeah. And, you know, I was blessed to see him make that money. And I knew that we didn't always make money like that. You know what I mean? He was in the military. We didn't have shit. Okay. And then he got to that point, but I saw it eat him up, you know, and I told myself, I'm going to have that shit too. I'm going to get where we at, you know, because, you know, we were able to get it while I was watching it. So it's something that I could appreciate. But I wasn't going to let it kill my fucking ass. I wasn't going to let it kill. I'm going to find a happy fucking medium here. Right. You know, and, you know, armed with that, you know, it was like, hey, baby, you know, you coming home I got this. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna knock this shit out. I'm gonna take care of this. You know what I mean? If I need some nurse expertise or something like that, and I may weigh on you sometimes if I need, but we're gonna figure out. And so it was really nice because it allowed for me to be home. Yeah. I was like the first stay-home dad in my generation.
Right.
That actually
now, I'm glad you said that shit.
Yeah.
How does it feel as a man? I mean, even though your job is at home.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be home every day, all day? Because that your job, because your clients are at your home.
That's right.
Your children are at your home.
That's right.
Your wife is at your home. Your I don't want to say your free time is at your home, but some of your free time is at your home. So how does that feel being at home all the time? Some people I know were driving crazy. How do you work through that?
Well, I'm a Taurus. All right. So I'm an earth person. Mm-hmm. I like to be on the ground. And
right.
So and I am very introspective. And so being at home to me is a sheer joy. Okay. If I could do the little things that I would want to do, I only need to go out so many. If the business is getting, if business is going and it's starting to mount stress, then I might need to get out of there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And also just to get a vacation, get out of there.
Right,
so
right.
Pay somebody, like have them come to the house and, have an outing with my wife and whatnot. But to be home all the time is a blessing because I don't have to drive back and forth. And I watching my father and putting those work in, you know what I mean? When I was younger, you know what I mean? Walking 6 miles to work. I did all of that shit. Because I always had a fucking job, bro. It's just not gonna not happen. You know what I'm saying? And so, but I used to tell myself the whole time. So I reflect on that in these days, and I'm humble about that. My wife might say, well, you don't really gotta work too hard, and I'd be like, baby, I set this up, I set this shit up, and I'm working hard now to make sure that she don't have to work. That's my goal, and she knows that. She'd be like, man, hey, but we also scale back the amount of clients that we had in order for it to just be easier. You know what I'm saying? Not be so money driven.
Right.
And we're driving ourselves into a hole. But, mentally, but we've been able to really expand. We've been able to get timeshares. We've been able to travel. I've been able to travel the world to grow spiritually. I mean, this has been a huge fucking blessing.
Because you've been out the country to explore your spirituality. Where at?
Oh, I went out to Peru. I went to Lupa, outside of Huaraz in the mountains, 13,000 feet up in the Andes Mountains.
How was that? What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was beautiful. But the experience was work.
Okay.
So when we talk about that spiritual work, I mean, just getting up there and being in that environment, you got to learn how to breathe.
Yeah.
All right, and that could drive you back down the mountain. All right, but it was a retreat.
Right.
All right, for ayahuasca, and so
what's ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca is a mother teacher plant.
Okay.
Is prominent in South America. Okay, and so it has psychedelics in it. So America cut it off, but the truth is that it's a master teacher plant. That
do you eat it? Do you smoke it? What do you do?
Yeah, with it? So you take the bark and you take the leaves and you boil them down, or you take the bark from a different tree. Nonetheless, you boil this stuff down and then you drink it like tea.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and so it's a condensed tea.
Okay.
All right, and it sits inside of you and it pulls up so much, so if you feel like you petty, oh man, you're going to be in for it. You know what I mean? Yeah, seriously, because you're going to sit there and be like, somebody's going to walk past you and you're going to be like, oh, that's petty. You know what I mean? Like, someone's going to shut the door too hard while you're in, trying to sit with this and you're going to be like, what are you doing?
Did you feel like Malcolm X when he took that trip to Mecca? Because before Malcolm X took that trip to Mecca, Malcolm X was so anti-white.
Okay.
But when he took that trip to Mecca, he understood that he stood next to Muslims that looked like the people that he so-called didn't like, but were great people. And when he came back home, and was like, well, white people ain't all that goddamn bad. I've seen some great ones. Did that do anything like that for you? That to help you understand a little bit more than what you thought you understood, but really didn't understand?
Well, as far as black and white, yeah and no. All right. There's always a sense of biasness that just exists in my world. However, I met a lot of good people. I met people from Spain.
Right.
All right. I met folks from Australia.
Yeah.
Okay. From London. All right. Our shamans from Britain. Okay. Great Britain.
Right.
And so, seeing people from different walks of life, and obviously folks that I mentioned, I was only, African American in the yurt, what I'm saying? There was a Latino there, but nonetheless, I was already after a spiritual quest anyway. That's what sent me down there.
Yeah.
So I certainly didn't feel, out of place or anything like that. I felt that, everybody was just trying to discover themselves, and that made them open a certain amount that allowed them to be receptive to anybody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so as a result, then I was able to grow down there. I was able to not worry about, my skin color, so I don't know whether, I think when he went, he went to a religious place and he saw, adversity. But, I wasn't really paying attention to the adversity. If I was going to get the adversity, I was going to get the adversity, Yeah. My thing was to ayahuasca. It was like, what's going on with this stuff?
Right.
You know what I mean? Is it going to do what it is that they said it was going to do? You know what I mean? And, am I with all the hoopla that was surrounding it? I wanted to experience that. I felt like I was led to experience that.
Right. And when you came back home after experiencing all that, did you get on your wife's nerves with everything that you so-called learned, that she just didn't want to hear about that shit? Baby, if you do it like I went there, they told me. They told me. They said, and your energy ain't, and everything you turn around with. Well, goddamn, I know you went to Peru, but goddamn, baby, I mean, shit. Me too.
Yeah.
Did you get on her nerves with that shit?
Nah, it wasn't really like that. Nah. It was more along the lines like she was really intrigued.
Okay.
Like, let me question him. Let me see what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I had some awakenings while I was down there. Like I popped out of my consciousnness.
Right.
I was in the yurt going, off of ayahuasca in a circle while the shaman was beating on a drum. And I left that area. I was in an area where there was a fire and it was all black around me, but there was just fire sitting there and I was just sitting there.
Yeah.
I was pure consciousness. I wasn't even a body. I was just sitting there. And I sat there for so long that I started to worry about the fact that I wasn't breathing. It made me nervous.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm like, oh, and I'm back. And I'm like still in the middle of my arm. That was what was so wild about it. And my shaman came up to me. He told me.
You said shaman?
My shaman.
Oh,
yeah,
shaman.
His name is Alex.
Okay, that's not with a C.
No, that's with an A. Oh, shaman.
Shaman. Okay.
Shaman.
It's not you said shaman, that's like toilet paper.
Yeah. No, that's shaman. Nah, yeah, y'all pick me up on, I'll put some toilet paper up there. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, so he was basically telling me, like, you reached, like, a really high vibration. Not a lot of people can do that. And I told him, like, man, I kind of left. And he's like, I know, I was really intrigued to understand and want to know more about how he knew that, and that came later. But what I realized and what I spent time expressing with my wife was the fact that I had learned how to heal with my hands.
Yeah.
Even before I had learned about Reiki healing, I learned that, that I had pulled some type of connection that came as a result of the healing.
Right.
All right. And the concentrated work on myself.
Right.
Using psychedelic teas from Mother Earth that gave me the gift to heal with my hands that turned so red that, you know, and I could feel like the tingling sensation in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
And he would say too, you know, before we started, y'all gonna do some shit. All right, just let it come naturally. However that looks. If you need to get out of the yurt and walk around, do that. You know, I don't know why anybody would walk around because he got little pebbles out there that'll fuck your feet up. And when you off ayahuasca, you like, ah, what the fuck? You know, but, you know, nonetheless, you know, I sat up. And the very first time, like, I took ayahuasca, you know, he said, and we, you know, he finished the circle. He says, everybody, we sat with it for a minute. And he said, is anybody not feeling ayahuasca? And, you know, enthusiastically, I said, I am not feeling the ayahuasca. You know, he looked at me with this sharp look, like, okay. You know, and he was like, Dion, come back up here. You know, and so he whispered some intention into the cup and he handed it me again, and boom! You know, I saw this freaking eye literally look at me from the ceiling, like, wow. Yeah, and I was like, oh, and I just started saying, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I, you know, it was just wild, like, you know, it was so deep. Yeah. You know, it was so, you know, it was just so deep. And then I was like, oh, and I turned around and I hadn't eaten anything, you know, and right. All of a sudden, I just let's let it rip. Wow. Yeah. You know, and I started shaking and I'm just, and that's when it set in, like my mind started racing so fast. I started thinking about the flight. I started thinking about, you know, being on ayahuasca. I started thinking about the fact that I couldn't breathe. I started thinking about all my troubles, you know, baby mama drama, you know what I mean? Let me just go ahead and say that shit, you know, and it was just like all of it coming in one for fluster, you know, it just won't stop. So let me and hold on, let me say this one thing here. Go ahead. You know, and so it was like, you know, and then I heard this voice, very subtle, like, you know, you need to stop thinking, you know, stop thinking. And I fought it. You know, and I sat there like, oh, man. So what did that actually mean when it said stop thinking? It means stop thinking. You're thinking too much? You're thinking yourself out of shit? Right. Yeah. It meant it was a reflection of what I was doing in my life. Right. Okay. It was literally sit here and go. But now you have you said earlier you have a YouTube page that's called what again? Divine Timing 33. Divine Timing. Divine Timing 33. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now I see this notepad right here with some Divine Timing 33. What's this notepad? Oh well, you know, this notepad is like it's the beginning of I don't know whether I want it to be like for notes or I just started this. Yeah. You know, my wife put this together. Okay. And there's probably about, you know, maybe 18 different PowerPoints. Okay. Okay. Of information that I'm very clear on. Mm-hmm. I've mastered. And so I use this as a reference to do my my videos. Okay. You know, for Divine Timing. I watched a few videos. Mm-hmm. Okay. I subscribe to it as well. Okay, I appreciate it. I subscribe to it and I watched a few videos and the few videos that I watched, the first one was like, shit. Okay, all right. Then the second one was like, oh shit. This is going some goddamn way here. Then I watched another one. I haven't watched them all the way through, mm-hmm. but I have watched them. And the third one I watched was like, well, shit, I think that's me. You know what I'm saying? What do you mean by that? What I mean by that is it was some things with your energy. We touched on it earlier. Yeah. It was some things about when you talk about your energies and just sit there and be quiet and be from within. Mm. You know what I'm saying? And I sit, sometimes I find myself doing this all the time, mm-hmm. but not knowing that I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. That I will sit there and be in my own thoughts sometimes. Mm-hmm. You know, and how much energy it generates. Because when they say you manifest what you speak. And what you think. What you thinking. Oh, mm-hmm. Both. Yeah.
and it really happens.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? When you sit there and you manifest this shit,
Mhm.
you know, on what you're thinking and what you're saying, and it was one of them that you were saying, you know, you gotta sit there, you be quiet, close your eyes, and you do your not a hymn, but it's you know, when you just sit there and you manifest everything in your hums or whatever. And I caught myself sitting there in my thoughts, you know, and letting my energy like take control, you know, to the point to where I was just a vessel and my energy was doing the steering. You know what I'm saying? I ain't getting away of my energy. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? All I did was just sat there and I took a ride
Mhm.
and my energy did all the steering, like on a boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, damn,
Mhm.
this shit really worked. I mean, I imagine if I did it more on a serious tip,
Mhm.
how much more I would be able to see.
Mhm.
You know, from this ordeal. So like I said, I have been watching, you know, your YouTube pages, and I've been trying to take, take some of that in, but at the same time, shit, I guess I'm still a heathen. I
You
still
know,
drink.
we down here in the
Still drink.
3D.
I still drink.
I'm drink too. I don't drink now, but you know,
Yeah,
hey, you know, the truth is that divine timing,
yeah.
right? You know,
And I'm glad you called it divine time because because it got to be at your own time.
that's right.
Can't nobody force you to do shit that you don't want to do at that time.
See, part of the process is you got to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Because when you go with the flow, then you start to learn things.
Right.
You know, when you go up and down and up and down, all of that is part of divine timing, which is a long period of learning.
Right.
Okay. And so, but when you have your mind set on something and you're trying to go after it, and you're like, what's going on? And you're not taking the process, then, you know, that's your ego.
Yeah.
All right. And so the fact is that when you realize and you're like, it ain't working, when you come back and be like, okay, let me get this a try. That was an ego death.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to kill your ego.
Right.
Over and over until you're like, I finally see. You know what I mean? All of that just takes time. So that's why you have to learn to go with the flow. And I struggle with that. I struggle with that. And because I was always used to just doing things myself and making it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I would look at God and I bark at him. You know, I ain't gonna hold you up, you know, and I would be like, but I'm doing this and I'm doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it was divine timing. And that was coming as a result over time from the information that I was learning. And, you know, that is when I decided, okay, I'm going to name this divine timing.
Right.
Because this is where my struggle is. And so, you know, I'm going to name this divine timing.
And I think that is an accurate name. I think that's a fitting name because when it comes down to it, regardless of who you are, it's all about timing. No matter what you do in life,
that's right.
It is all about, you know, timing. Sometimes you're gonna be off, sometimes you're gonna be on. But at the same time, it's just all about timing. When you met your wife, it was all about timing. Because imagine who else you could have met at McDonald's.
Yeah. Who else I did meet? You know?
You know what I'm saying? That could have threw off everything. You know what I'm saying? But due to divine timing, you know, I'm not real big on religions and things like that, but in spirituality, but God put this woman right here at this time, you know, for a reason. And God put you there at that time for her for a reason.
Yeah.
And that reason, you didn't know, you didn't see this day then. You know what I'm saying? You didn't see the home with 6 acres around the home.
That's right.
When you met her at McDonald's.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? You didn't see, you know, the nursing at U of M at that time.
No.
You didn't see the addition to the home that you made with the 4 extra rooms at the home at that time.
Yeah.
All that had to do with timing.
Divine timing.
Yeah. All of it had to do with timing, along with, you know, timing is everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If you're late, if you're on time, or if you before time, timing is everything. But the one thing about timing is that you don't see what time has until time gets there.
And so, then that's a really good point. And so, it's going to take you to go through that, give you that wisdom. But see, when you get that wisdom, that's that third eye
Right.
that can then trust, in the spirit, okay, for divine timing. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So then you can start to work with the spiritual aspects of life, having anything that you want, and being able to manifest it over time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just, what I'm saying, but over time, I mean, even the timing that we've had, as of right now, talking about you and I, you know what I'm saying, even with the untiming, passing of your brother,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying, who's to say that if your brother wouldn't have passed away, that we wouldn't be where we at right now, meaning you and I. You know what I'm saying? That our brotherhood wouldn't be what it is, because you'll just still be just Dion, and I'll just still be, your brother being here. You know what I'm saying? But even though it was a harsh time, a sad time, and a devastating time, that time really did something for the best of us, for the both of us, to being better people. Not that we was bad people towards each other, but better people towards each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Who's to say that, without that happening, that shit, I don't know, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. Because it wouldn't have been that. Not to say it wouldn't have been, but that healthy motivation may not have been necessarily there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I put it like this. So I started getting downloads, after Devin died, because my father was dating a spiritual woman at that time. And her name was Joni. Shout out to Joni. Okay, she gave me a medallion. All right. She gave me this, it had a tourmaline in it. It fell out over the years. But she told me, here, you need this. Because, my vibration has sunk down so low, And she was really instrumental. She's got some gifted kids, and, her kids were writing letters. They said they saw my brother, whatever, and my brother was able to write a letter to me. And, through these kids, it was the most amazing thing. Divine fucking time. Right? Yeah. Right. And because he dated this woman for 6 months, one, he died. And this woman told him, my father, that, that there was going to be a death in the family. It was going to be one of your sons. Mm-hmm. And he didn't believe her, so he didn't tell us.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, she was very instrumental in being there for us. Yeah. For the family and everything. But she, after writing that letter, that was closure, right? Because I swear it was him. Mm-hmm. But what he was said in the letter was, you wasting time. And don't waste your time.
Right.
And you're wasting time, and it was like, and always remember that. Always remember I love you. Always remember I love you. Mm-hmm. But don't waste time.
Right.
And it was like, what? So as a result, I told Deep, I said, dang, man, that was one hell of a letter that just was written to us,
Yeah.
And we started looking for a house immediately, right? Because we needed to get the hell out of that condo because of what happened at the condo, right? Yeah. And so it pushed things. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, do I get a house out in Milan? If my brother's still alive? Probably not.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I might stay in that condo. It was a really nice condo.
Yeah, it was a nice condo.
Yeah. I might stay in that bad boy for another couple years. Yeah. When I think about it, even though I'm actually paying rent on a condo and I own that condo.
Right.
You know what I mean? The square footage was, bar none. It was a really nice environment. Yeah. All right. And it was brand new. So you couldn't beat it. So it had to be upheaval of some type, a tower, to create the change necessary for me to move that luxury onto, what was bought as a home, foreclosure.
Yeah.
Out in the country.
Oh, it was
it was a foreclosure. It was a foreclosure. And it was still pricey.
Yeah.
It was at the price. It was at the top of what we were able to afford.
Yeah.
You know, but nonetheless, it was a foreclosure. So when we toured that property and when we looked at it, we're like, well, you know, we're only going to be able to live in the living room. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, until we can actually get around here to clean this bitch up. You know what I'm saying? And also, really settle in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was filthy.
Yeah.
All right. And so, but not too bad, you know. But upstairs was like, you know, it needed windows, the drafty, you know what I'm saying? Like the bathroom and the master bedroom needed to be
Well, let me ask you when
Sure.
you first moved there, because not many Afro Americans or even Indians live in the country. You know what I'm saying? You don't get to me.
Indians live in the country in India.
In India, but not in America.
No, not
You know what I'm saying? And even with Afro Americans, not so much up north versus down south.
Mm-hmm.
You know, down south you're gonna have a whole lot of brothers that live in the country area. Sure. Down south, but up north you don't really have that type of atmosphere. Mm-hmm. You know, and what was that like, having your wife who's from India, mm-hmm. and then yourself being African American, and then your neighbors around you, mm-hmm. being Caucasian?
Yeah, so I mean, it had its adversities. It still does. I mean, but there's enough land around there where I don't really interact with my neighbors like that. You know, somebody maybe high and by or whatever. You know, I stay to myself.
Right.
My wife told me, you know, well, I wouldn't pick this because I'm a city girl, but if this is what you want because of your vision.
Right.
You know, I used to tell her I want to live in a house that be like, I had so many people in my house and I knew what to do, like mm-hmm. like the old shoe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and so she understood what the vision was, and I remember her telling me, she said, yeah, so my father would love this, mm-hmm. you know, so you kind of remind me a lot, because not only is it, you know, 6 acres, it's wooded.
Right.
You know that.
Yeah.
And that needs to be said, you know, only because of the fact that, you know, it's highly nature.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah, that being said, it was a change of scenery, but it wasn't so hard, you know, for me to adapt. Mm-hmm. Maybe for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an experience. When I hit that block, you know, folks were like, you know, they were just constantly asking me as if I didn't answer their question already. How old are you?
Right.
You know, they couldn't get over the fact that, yeah, they just stuck, you know, and then some of that turned into competition, you know. Yeah. But I don't compete like that. You know what I mean? I compete inside. Right. You know what I mean? And but they were baffled. You know, they mm-hmm. thought my wife was a child. And,
oh wow!
You know, and they thought that I was obviously a child too, and they was just like, "How did you do that? How do you afford that house?"
Yeah,
you know? Yeah. And so it was just like working. But I believe that over the years they realized, like, dang, you know, that guy don't stop. You know, but that wasn't. I got my own goals. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I got my own goals.
Right.
You know, and it might be a little ADD in there too. You know, ADHD in there. You know, that's some mean shit right there. And then I'll be fucking going, bro. You know what I mean? And then it's like, once you learn to slow the mind down and the focus, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, you can run 5, 6, 7 miles. You could, however you want to focus.
I've learned that, you know, in my endeavors, that, you know, that a guy I used to work with when I first started working in Inkster, you know, I used to always just be on the go, always be on. I gotta get this. I gotta understand. I gotta solve this. I gotta deal with this. I gotta. Mm-hmm. And he told me, "Look here, man. Walk slow and drink water. Walk slow and drink water." Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? The shit gonna be here. Mm-hmm. It ain't going nowhere. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be here. It was here before you got here. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be here after you leave here. It's gonna be here while you here. Drink slow and walk slow and drink water.
I had a 70-year-old man, African American. He's a plumber.
Yeah.
And he got to a point where he just approved the inspections. And so when they built that new addition, which was a blessing too, you know, because I wanted 3 bedrooms and a bath. That's what I was trying to get. 2 bedrooms and a bath.
Yeah.
And, you know, God told me divine timing and gave me more. But, you know, while we were getting everything finalized, this 70-year-old man came out to finalize my plumbing. And he said, you know, he asked me how old I was. And I told him, and he said, man, you really are ahead of your time here. And so he said, look, you know, watch the drinking. All right. Don't drink so much. And, you know, and just kind of go with the flow because you're already ahead of yourself.
Right, right.
And, you know, he said it just like that. Like he was, but I understood what he was saying, you know, in my youngness. Right.
Yeah.
And this may have been 5 years ago, but nonetheless, you know, he was so intrigued, but he felt like he wanted to bestow wisdom upon me.
Yeah.
But even to this day, I never forgot about it. All right. And he said it's so subtle. And, you know, it's like, as I continue to get older, I understand what he's saying,
right.
You know, but it wasn't so much about just drinking, you know, and he didn't know that I drank or didn't drink or I don't drink right now.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was just saying like, watch yourself and watch your emotions, you know, and just watch all of this, you know, hold all of this together. Basically, he was trying to tell me, you know, because I mean, but you know, a lot of times, especially in the youth, I'm grateful to be 40 years old now. You know, we can lose sight of, you know, we got all kind of gifts. Yeah. It's about being able to put it together and do the dance at the same time. In order to manifest. That's what we're talking about. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so he was able to realize like, man, you're doing it. And, you know, but I was also able to receive, okay, right. Because I know sometimes I can drink, and when I do, I be binging. You know, I'm drinking 12-pack. You know what I'm saying? You know, some folks be like, that 12-pack ain't shit. Right. 12-pack is gonna put me under. You know what I'm saying? But I don't. That's too much. Right. But you know, just to understand that this was an old timer, someone who was still working. You know what I mean? That I could, you know, go. And I'm 40 now. That was 5 years ago. But another 30 years, I could still be doing and moving around, not suffering from a heart attack, right? Hanging in there or mental, you know, collapse, right? You know, and emotional because of life, right? Stuff that we might put ourselves in, right? That I could make it to that age and that 70 wasn't so bad. So then to be 35 was like a baby. Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand completely. Yeah. And you know, I mean, I think that, you know, with us and our chemistry, man, I think that we can keep going on and on and on and on and on. And, you know, as that old rap saying, we can keep going on and on until the break of dawn. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want this to be the last podcast that we do. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that we still got a lot of shit.
A lot of stuff to cover.
You know what I'm saying? But the one thing I do want to come on your podcast as well.
Absolutely.
On Divine Time in 33.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You got it.
And you know what I'm saying? Because I think it's some spiritual things I got in me that I just that needs to be let out just as well. But I do appreciate you. You know, you showing up today.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
And showing support, you know, to this podcast, because when I started the podcast, I was worried. Like, shit, how many people gonna come on this podcast and do the timing?
Yeah, and I know you were like, come on, you know,
the timing. I've been blessed to have the people that come on that's done came on.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? You know, bless, you know, do with timing and to do with my you know, with my character and things like that people, for the most part, haven't had a problem with coming on. And I really appreciate everyone that's come on, including yourself.
I appreciate it.
You know what I'm saying? And we got to do this again and touch on, you know, a lot of more other shit. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of shit to talk about.
You better believe
what I'm saying? We got a lot of shit to talk about because you like a brother to me. You like someone that a confidant that I could talk to and don't have to worry about judgment. May have to hear some harshness there and somewhere in between.
Oh, I'm not that bad.
No, you're not that bad. You're not that, but it's one thing to be truthful with someone,
Yeah.
and it comes from a good place.
Yeah.
Versus somebody, I'm just telling the truth. You can tell the truth and be hurtful than a motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Just to get it out.
Yeah, just to get it out.
That's that karmic shit.
Yeah, I'm like, well, goddamn, homie, you ain't got. I mean, shit.
You trying to make me feel that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm already, but it's the way you deliver messages.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And you deliver a message, that's like, all right, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's motivating. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to motivate someone with your message, and there's another thing to destroy somebody with your message.
Absolutely.
You can have the same message,
mm-hmm.
but the way you deliver it can motivate somebody or destroy somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I just have to appreciate, the brotherhood that we done had over the years. And then after your brother passed away, and I told you, I'm coming to you now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's you and I. I can't come to your brother no more.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do the stupid shit that we used to do no more.
Well, you came up.
It's you now.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And I admit
college.
that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You came up. Yeah, you did. You may have been looking at me for inspiration, but boy, did you do some shit with it, and you had it in you all the way. I was inspired by you coming up. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it works. I think there's like a seesaw balancing effect.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's not a lot of people that have knowledge and that have the wherewithal that where I come from, other than my immediate family, that has the wherewithal to have deep conversations about anything, right? Right? And so, I don't really grasp that charm, in the hood. I need to get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Damn it, I'm trying to, I need to go hang out with some people that are like-minded.
Right.
And that's okay to feel like that. Or, you can suffocate yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mo, I just wanted to let you know, you already know, I just wanted to come on here and also say that I heal. All right, I heal with my hands. I do Reiki healing. It's also known as that. I'm very powerful.
Yeah.
All right, I heal sinus infections. I heal chronic illnesses. Okay, I heal like if you have stomach problems, if you have constipation, I can also pull energy off of you.
Okay.
So if you have like a lot of deep, fear, regret, remorse, if you have a lot of pain from your childhood,
mm-hmm.
I can pull that energy from you, and you'll feel it too. I've seen you in tears in the whole 9 yards. What you doing here? So there's a multitude of different ways that I can heal a person.
Right.
I also use crystals and rocks and whatnot to do that. But the God source energy is in my shaman healing hands, and so I just wanted to point that out too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So not only am I someone that has the knowledge and the energy to disperse to the collective, so that they can grow. All right, that I also come with an arsenal of stuff that I could work with a person personally, to help heal them at Divine Timing 33.
And I mean, what I'm saying, man, I just appreciate, I just appreciate you as an individual. I appreciate you as a person. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you as a, as a brother. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you also as having contributing to some of my ways that are better than before. You know what I'm saying? But it's a whole lot of people. But I appreciate and I'm glad that I've been able to, be in your life. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate that your kids call me uncle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I appreciate all that shit. You know what I'm saying? It says so much. It says so much. And I think this is gonna wrap it up for another episode of off the clock with Mo. And like I said, we gotta do this again. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of other because this whole segment could have went for another 3, 4, 5 hours if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But I want to do it again and again.
We'll do it again.
We're gonna do it again.
We're gonna do it again.
And I appreciate you and I love you.
Love you too, bro.
All right, that's gonna be another episode of Off the Clock with Mo. So please subscribe, make any comments, and hit the like button. Thank you very much.